kind of one of the hacks that that we've done at our brokerage. And I'd like to hear what your guys' feedback is in terms of how you guys are kind of navigating NAR, what different things you're doing to still, obviously work through the recruiting challenges that are going on, and kind of go from there. So I will open it up for questions, feedback, anybody that wants to jump in. Again, guys, the more interactive this is, the better it will be, and we will kind of take it from there.
Corey, I would mention on how you're leveraging the event on the recruiting aspect of this and how that sort of happened. You guys weren't really planning on the recruiting, but just having the event being public led to some recruits. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, Mike. Yeah, great question. So yeah, for us, right, it's just, I think, being loud in the market, being a leader in the market. I think that all of the agents right now are just don't know what to expect. They really want that information. They want that education. And because of it, by leading by example and stuff like that, we saw an uptick in recruits almost immediately after. So it's been something that's been super beneficial for us. I would definitely suggest, if you haven't done it, to do it, and you can make it public. You can go ahead and do it either on Zoom. You can do it essentially in a public forum. I actually believe that if you can do it in a public forum and actually get people to come to the event and actually interact with them like we did before COVID, it's super powerful. And that was super successful for us. So
I got Jason and Shelly here. Shelly, how you doing?
Hi, how are you? I'm Shelly Simmons. I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And my question would be, Corey, that has been rolling around in my head for quite some time in terms of that. Can you be more specific? Was it a public event at your brokerage, an off-site? Was it a panel? Was it you? And did you invite external agents to the event?
Yeah, great question. So kind of two levels and layers to this. So first and foremost, we did not do it at the brokerage. We did do it off-site. We always kind of believe that a neutral site is better as opposed to just having them come to our office. And we essentially did one that was internal, that was specific to the forms, just because essentially you obviously want to speak to your agents on how you understand those different forms and what's specific to you as the broker or your broker of record, kind of explaining what those forms are. But with that being said, we also had a panel of agents, and the agents were agents that we knew that are pretty compliant. They're good in regards to how they handle things and stuff like that. This is a picture here just of all the people that we had in the room. And really it was just about the agents explaining how they're navigating the different issues in NAR and essentially how they're dealing with the buyers and sellers and the different hacks that they have. So we had a few different agents that were on there. Like I said, again, kind of we had a male perspective, a female perspective, just different agents that have been successful with it. That was really, really well taken by the other agents and stuff like that. And we're going to do another one to constantly stay in front of it because it was so well received. Does that answer your question, Shelly?
It does. And so, Corey, you obviously work with Suneet.
Yes, I do know Suneet. I know Suneet well. Yes.
I follow Suneet. I follow everything Suneet says about recruiting. So I couldn't believe when that popped up. I'm like, oh, this makes so much sense. This is perfect. Thank you, Corey. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thanks for the question, Shelly. Jason, do you have a question?
Hey, Corey, how you doing, man?
Good, brother. How you doing?
Good. So on that, so first, I love the idea of the panel internally first, right? To be able to get all your people on the same length or wavelength, if you will, of what you are wanting them to be saying, their conversations to their clients. And I guess that leads me to the question of when you went out and did the other panel, was that all your own agents doing all the speaking, or did you have agents from other companies also as part of that outside panel, or when you did the offsite bigger event, if you will?
Yeah, great question. We actually did our agents, and we did our agents because we just kind of wanted it to be a reflection of our brokerage. So the way that it's situated is we kind of have our broker of record sit down, speak about some of the different things from kind of the forum perspective, more of not the internal stuff, but more in generalities. So she'd speak for anywhere from 40 to 45 minutes. And then they would bring on the agents and it would be a fireside chat. of just kind of how they're navigating the different issues and the different hacks that they've handled, so that they're still maximizing the commissions as best they can, and just really interesting stuff. And what we found is we do quite a bit of training at Big Block, and for us, one of the things that we do is like an agent mastermind. That agent mastermind is co-hosted by our CEO, Sam Kramian. But we find that anything that is led by the agents, you get a lot more interaction because it's more of their peers, right? There's a place for us to talk and to lead and to kind of give that 50-foot view. But we've just always felt that, or always found that the interaction that it's coming from other agents has been uber successful, and it's just much more well taken because they're more willing to speak to an agent in some situations than they would speak to us. Does that kind of make sense, Jason? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that helps a bunch. I was just curious, when you start good, if you start going too far out the path, you might say, hey, this is the way we do it here, and this is the type of conversation I would have based upon what I believe. As we know, if you look at especially lab coat agents is one, right? There's so many differing types of opinions and how people are saying you should do it this way with the seller, you should do it that way with the seller, or people looking to have different workarounds, or if you will, all that stuff. So it gets very interesting.
Yeah, and Jason, just to kind of echo that, the people that we brought on the panel are essentially an extension of how we want to do things, right? Because to your point, there are so many different perspectives, so many different ideas, so many different things around this that, again, you could call it right or wrong or just perspectives, but at the end of the day, we want to lead by the example that we want to lead by, and we want to, essentially create that culture so that even if an agent is interested in possibly being recruited to our brokerage, they kind of know what they're getting. And that's why we wouldn't necessarily bring out outside agents. At least in the initial, may change, but that's the success that we've had. So I hope that helps.
Love it. Thank you.
You got it. Hey, Mara, how you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Good, good.
There was you and then another owner that mentioned a SUNY. I don't know who that is, or regarding recruiting. You guys follow them. I'd love that info. And then to follow you, I did switch. We offer 4 different plans. But I went over to the 100% a flat rate. And we seem to be getting more agents from larger brokerages. So
yeah, I don't want to get into a debate about commission plans because I think that there is value in every commission plan. I think that, obviously with 100% or flat fee model or whatever you want to call it, you obviously have to win in volume. But if it's something that you guys are interested in for those particular agents that might fit that mold, I do think it's a viable option because it's going to be very enticing. Now, again, I don't want to discount or alienate the split brokerages because it's really all about your value add, what you're providing. May it be leadership, may it be leads, may it be production, and and which is a great question. And I'm actually going to tap Mac McKee in here in a moment. One of the big things that I actually really believe in, myself believes in, Sam believes in, and I know Mac believes in this, is right now it is more important than ever to focus on production. Right? Agents are looking to produce more. They're scared. They're concerned. We'll talk about some of the ancillaries and stuff like that in a little bit and how we can help kind of get some additional monies in their pocket. But Mac has a really interesting program that he created. And I'm going to have him kind of come on and kind of talk about that a little bit because I do think that there's a lot of value in some of the things that he's doing. Mac, you want to jump in, brother?
Hey, thanks, Corey. Can everybody hear me? Corey, you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
yes.
Okay, great. I'm out of Scottsdale, Arizona, and it's highly competitive here. We've got everything from the MLMs to the flat free brokerages to the bougie brokerages as well, the agency and the Oppenheimer group. So recruiting's a difficult component in a highly competitive market. To that end, what we've found is that yes, some agents want to be on their own, and more power to them. But the majority of newer agents or agents that are coming into the business need a support structure. So we do a lot of what they need most, and that is they don't want to hunt. They don't want to find their own prospects, and which is hard to do in today's day and age, especially with the complete clutter that's out there on social media. So we take that off their plate, and we drive a lot of live transfer buyer leads, preset appointments for listing appointments to our agents. And we drive more of a team model. We do have an independent model for agents where they don't participate in that. We don't do a flat fee. We're a little different than Corey's brokerage, but somewhat similar. It's a high commission and with a cap and those type things. But to your point, I know that the industry, especially if you look at the younger group of people that are coming out of college, coming out of the schools, looking to make a career change under the age of 35, they want collaboration. There's a bunch of studies done, sales irrespective. So not just real estate, but salespeople in general, which is what we do. And they say that their top 3 things out of 10, none of them are compensation. One is support, structure, training, coaching, and culture. Those are lumped in the first 3. So we kind of start focusing on that. And then if we pick off, we have 2 tiers for our individual agents. One is the mass producers, the whales, we call them the elite producers. It's almost straight up 100% from the get-go. And then there's a separate track for, the part-timers, people straddling a fence trying to get in. But that's what we've been seeing here in a very competitive market in Scottsdale, is that they really, need help on finding people outside their Rolodex. And we provide that to them. Shelly, you asked, can you tell us what your main lead sources are for your agents? Yes. Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Facebook is low-hanging fruit. We don't try and just drive a lead to an agent that says, here's a name, email, and phone number, call them. What we do is we do no sales per se. It's really a webinar of, hey, come to this 20-minute webinar for first-time home buyer information. Top 3 mistakes to make as a first-time home buyer. Hey, are you looking to move to Scottsdale versus Mesa? What are the pros and cons to moving in this area? So it's really educational. And then we give them the option about 3 to 5 times within the presentation to click on for a 10-minute one-on-one conversation, which then turns into a lead. And from there, we then pass it to the agent. So we kind of qualify it, peer the funnel down. So you start at, if it's $500 ad spend per agent, we usually get about 50 leads, of which we convert to about 10 actual hot targets. And then we get anywhere from 2 to 5 over the next 90 days that we close. Is kind of our funnel.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Mac. I really appreciate that. Is there any other questions here for Mac in regards to that? Nope. All right, Mac, thanks so much for sharing, brother. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
You got it, Corey. Thanks.
All right, cool. All right, guys. So what questions do you guys have? I have some other topics that I can kind of touch on, but I just want to kind of open it up for questions and kind of hear some of the different things that you guys are doing. What systems do you use for your webinars, Mac? Mac, I'll let you take that one, brother. It's from Alicia.
So the systems we use for the webinars, it's a standard Zoom, and YouTube's a little bit different than the Facebook, but we use when they come out of the Facebook ad, they click right into a Zoom link that they would get, just like you got here whenever Corey emailed you. So it's, pretty similar. They jump on the Zoom presentation, and let's say we get 10 to 12 per week that jump on the webinar. Only about half show up, maybe 80%, but I still have all their contact information. Then we drip to them via text, email, and actual phone calls to get them back on, because they actually pledge their information to stay on there. But we use Zoom exclusively. It seems to work well for sharing screens of the PowerPoint slide presentation. And we don't have the agents do the presentation. We do it at the corporate level. And so therefore we're branding the brokerage, and then we can push out the lead to whatever agent fits, especially for the buyer working in that zip code area, that they're a local expert in that part of the city or whatever have you. So, but we use Zoom exclusively.
Great. Isaac, looks like you have a question.
All right. So definitely love the information being shared. So we're pretty heavy with our onboarding process, how we do things. But the challenge I'm having in this one, I wanted to ask, like, how are indies recruiting their agents right now to help build the brokerage and making sure you get the right talent? Because I feel like some of the more cloud brokerages are willing to just take everybody and anybody to keep that um, network. I don't want to call it a downline, but that network alive and strong. But with us as indies, I mean, we got to be careful who we bring into our culture. How are you guys filtering those candidates?
Yeah, I'm going to open that up to the group. What I want to kind of hear some feedback from some other people here. So, great question, Isaac. I appreciate that you bringing that up. So, anyone have a response to that and some of the different things that you guys are doing in your market to kind of handle what Isaac's kind of challenges?
I'd ask a question. This is Mac. Are you, Isaac, are you guys more team focused or are you individual agent focused?
Right now we are very agent focused. I have about 42 agents. We don't run the team model, even though I was a previous team captain, I would say team leader with KW. I was big on teams, but over here, a lot of our agents just like their independence. So
Sure.
I would like to go in a team direction. It just maybe I'm not on the right coaching to receive that, to how to really build this brokerage. I mean, I'll be real with you guys. The only reason I built this brokerage wasn't for the margin. I made more as an agent. I built it for my, you're gonna laugh, but my sanity. I want to go to work every day and enjoy where I'm at. Like I really cold-heartedly mean I wanted to control my environment, and it started with 3 of us, and we just expanded it. And we have a great group here, but margins, they're huge, right? We got to be careful of margins, and with inflation, my E&O is going up. All these little factors are continuing to rise. I need to bring more people on, per se, a few more, 5 more is what I'm thinking, but I want to bring the right people on. And I'm just curious what you guys are using for recruiting, because it is an attractive model with these cloud brokerages for some, but we're brick and mortar. You know, we use Suite Assist. We have a good little setup here, but just curious how you guys are doing it, the other indies.
I would ask you this, are in your individual model for recruiting, are you looking for producing agents, full-time agents, not part-time?
You know, truth be told, I have a whole course built for newer agents, how to get them in production,
Okay.
and how to understand the contract. I think with us, it's more along the lines of people that know how to use a computer. I mean, that's number one. It sounds funny, but I would say the pros and cons of like hiring producers without, I don't want to use the word giving the house away, but like bringing in value to them. I think that would be more of the thing. I mean, I could go new, but I'm just curious how you guys are filtering, because I don't want to just hire anybody and anybody to push the needle, because that could actually push us backwards if we get the wrong people on board.
Yeah. So I'm happy to hop in. You know, I think that, again, so in regards to the type of people that you're recruiting, you know, one, are you having a tough time locating them, or a tough time saying no, or a little bit of both?
So we get a lot of, so there is zero. Okay, I'm gonna backtrack here for a second. My recruiting or growth has been 100% organic,
Okay.
based upon like-minded minds that have seen my Instagram. I've never really put it out there that we're hiring. This is just more of an internal conversation I had with my bookkeeper, who used to be a former MCA for KW. If you guys know what that is, it's like the bookkeeper essentially. So we were having a conversation. He said, "Hey, Isaac, you need to add 5 more agents, cappers, because we run the cap model, to your environment, because your margins are starting to thin out and you don't want to go in the red. So you need to bring 5 more." And I'm like, well, shit, you know, excuse my language, I never went out and recruited. But if I put this out there, number one, I mean, I feel like recruiting agents are like going after listings in a way.
Sure.
Should I
Sure.
focus on producers, or should I go new guys? Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
I'm just in
yeah.
this situation. That's why when I saw this Indies Unite, I'm like, I'm there.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome.
Well, yeah. So great question. So I'm going to throw something at you guys. And Mike and I have been kind of working on this, and we have a couple different options. And again, this is, you guys can kind of choose your own adventure, but instead of necessarily focusing on recruiting more agents, I think that there's a tremendous amount of money in ancillaries. And I'll just kind of speak about lending, for example. So there are a lot of different companies out there. Mike and I actually have some relationships with a few of them, and this is not a pitch. It's, you can talk to them and see if it's a good fit. But essentially what we do is I'm really big on focusing around the ancillaries and the services around the transaction, not necessarily just the transaction itself. So there are things that you can put in place, and there are companies that you can start with, for example, on mortgage, that there are models from essentially that the agent can be licensed and can monetize with you. You, the broker, can monetize. You can do JVs, where essentially you have those golden handcuffs where you go, hey, they run everything for you. They have 51% and you have 49%, but you go to these producing agents, these agents that you like, and you say, hey, do you want to be an owner in this company so that if you're using the lending company that I'm using, you win and I win, and you guys are winning together? It's more of a we, not a me aspect, because there is a tremendous amount of margin on the lending side. And I'm just using that as one example. Another one that we found that we utilize is solar. So solar, and again, this is not a pitch. These are just things that we're doing, right? This solar company that we found, the broker makes on average $750 and the agent makes $3,000. So there's things that you can put in place from the ancillary services, as well as kind of just utilizing your marketplace or creating out your own vendor relations aspect of things. Like I can tell you at my brokerage, we make, an extra anywhere from 7 to 10 grand monthly just off of preferred relationships. Some are affiliates where essentially as agents close deals, we monetize with that affiliate, or they're paying us a monthly fee just to have access to our agents. So the way that we do it is if we have those preferred vendors, they are the only ones that get access to our private Facebook group. They're the only ones that get access to our events. And we really try to create as much exposure as possible around them. So like even our Facebook group, if someone puts their hand up and says, hey, I want a painter, I actually approve that post and tag the painter. So I think that there's a tremendous amount of money around ancillary services. And I think one of the things that's going to be really important is that with the commission compression or commission being cut or however you want to call it, you got to kind of think creatively on how you can create different revenue streams for your agents outside of focusing on increasing the production. And there's a lot of different things that you can do, essentially within, your marketplace or whatever you want to call it, that can really benefit you. And we've had tremendous success with that, making just money around the transaction. So does that help at all, Isaac? Did I lose him?
Sorry, I put my computer on mute. Yeah, I am a mortgage broker as well, and I'm not the king of everything, right? Like I've been in mortgage since 2003 and real estate, and both we run these very well because we have the right who's in place. But it's one of those things where, yeah, you're right. Ancillary services. I've always been attracted to bringing more value, and I know that's a big deal, a big block, and you guys run it like champs. When's the next, I know you guys did a mastermind back in like 2020. When's the next one that you guys are thinking of doing in person?
For a mastermind in person for
Yeah,
brokers like yourself? We can
yeah,
set
like
that
you
up
guys
if there's
do like a
interest
free-
and people wanted to do a mastermind in person. I guess by a show of hands, who would be interested in doing a mastermind in person? Because we would be happy to put something like that together.
Yeah, I know you guys did something in San Diego where you had like people breaking down ancillary services. Cause I think that, we're in commission compression for most markets, right? Obviously we have to change the skill sets. I noticed my buyer's agents are starting to average a little bit more lately since we got to be able to negotiate our commissions. But these ancillary services like the solar, the TC service, Facebook lead generation, I think that's the future. Mortgage, it's the future of our industry as well as escrow, right? It's not because we're trying to capitalize and make money off everything. It's deliver the client a great experience, control the experience, right? Most importantly, so that they get the outcome that they desire, but most importantly, stay in business, right? Because if we're all racing to cut our margins to the bottom, I mean, that's where we're going to end up, right? So it'd be awesome to meet with like-minded people, share some info, especially with that Sweet Assist model, man. Dude, I'm using it to a fraction of what it could be. A fraction.
Yeah. So I think that so happy to do an event and kind of to talk a little bit on the ancillaries, guys. There is so many ancillaries. Everybody kind of thinks of like the big ones, but think home warranty, right?
Yeah.
That's an easy one. We actually just created like an essentially integration for Home Warranty of America that's going to roll out. Not saying you have to use them, but home warranty is huge. right? I also believe that, you know, there's obviously lending, which is pretty straightforward. Title, escrow, those are the big ones. If you have natural hazard, like natural hazard and home warranty, literally is like a drop down that can just automatically be checked, and you can monetize the heck out of those. Then there's everything else that you guys don't think about from every single home service that surrounds a transaction. I mean, everything. I mean, think of a painter, a floorer, you know, someone that does windows, a landscaper, contractors. Contractors are great ones. Stagers are great ones, right? These are all things. A moving company. You know, like I have a relationship with a national moving company, right? And I'm happy to give you guys this information, stuff like that. So, like, we have some of these relationships with them, and you can kind of see, you know, in the marketplace, in the national marketplace, if you guys are using Sweet Assist, there's some that we've created. But like, our whole thing is that you guys can go out and create these regional relationships that are absolutely huge, right? And there's so many opportunities, there's so many things that surround the home. Termite inspection, the inspection company. I mean, it's kind of endless. We actually counted one time, like I think it was 78 services actually surround the transaction. And what's kind of cool is if you guys, you know, again, I don't want to make this about Sweet Assist or tout Sweet Assist, but we created like in there that you can have your own client facing marketplace that the agent, so you could create your own marketplace with your own home services and your own stuff. It's in there. And then it creates a unique link that your agents can give to their clients. So you not only monetizing on that transaction, but you're monetizing on, let's say, a painter or a carpet company 6 months down the road, and they're using that agent's unique link. So they stay top of mind and you're making additional monies. Does that make sense? Any kind of questions on that? Feedback?
Do you have to have that affiliation agreement? Like your affiliation agreement is probably super long, right? The affiliated business ABA arrangement or whatever it is called.
No, that's only if we own it. To my knowledge, it's only
Oh.
if we own it. We don't own these. These are
Oh.
relationships. These are local vendors, hyper local vendors, national vendors that we've just made relationships with. So if you don't own them, I don't believe that you have to disclose that. That's my
Oh,
knowledge.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's okay, cool. That's a win.
Only on RESPA. Yes,
And
Jason,
I'm
you're
curious,
correct.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna laugh, but I mean, I remember this guy, Chris Waters, I encountered a couple years back. We ran into him at a conference and he talked a little bit about like he has like a script and like not like a contract, but almost like a sponsor form he sends to these vendors. Do you guys, I know because I've been following Sweet Assistants for a while now, and I know you guys have like these masterminds,
Mhm.
even like these videos, right, that you guys put out as far as content goes. Do you guys have like a sample script or like how do you pitch that without screwing it up?
For the vendors,
Yeah, for the vendors, like, hey, you know,
it's
I want to
really
introduce my
yeah.
preferred vendor family, and it's going to cost you X amount of dollars. Like, what is that X look like? Just curious.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Fresno, by the way, so we're not average. Our median sales price is 442.
It's actually a really, really easy conversation and a really easy way to do it. So this is how we do it. So if you have any kind of intranet or private Facebook group or anything that you're using to communicate with your agents, we've all been in the situation where the agent puts their hand up and says, hey, does anybody have a good painter? And then Johnny agent comes in and says, I have Mr. Painter and he's great. And so that person, to me, if your agents are already using them, is the lowest hanging fruit that you can literally pick up the phone and call Mr. Painter and say, Mr. Painter, it looks like a few of my agents are already using you. I have a brokerage that has 42 agents. We close about X amount of transactions. I would love to bring you in as a preferred vendor. And if they're not too busy, and people are not really too busy right now, they're always looking for additional business. So in that scenario, you go, look, I have two different scenarios for you. So obviously anything that is non-RESPA compliant, you can share in the revenues with that person. So you can do essentially an affiliate model, right? So you're getting a percentage of that sale. So basically you kill what you eat. Or you can do a monthly option. And the way that I actually have that conversation is I'm very direct with them and say, hey, look, and then, again, this is the lowest hanging fruit, where essentially I'm looking to see who has been suggested by my other agents, because obviously they're referring them. So I pick up the phone, I call them and say, looks like all these different agents are using you. I'd like to sit down. Would you be interested in getting some more business? They go, sure. What does that look like? And then I basically, once I start talking to them, I explain the brokerage, I explain the benefit, I explain the opportunity. I said, would you like to learn more? And they said, absolutely. What does this look like? So then from there, I kind of get into their profit margins and say, hey, what do you typically pay you know, or what do you have set aside for your marketing budget, right? If you were to market this externally, how much would you pay? 10, 15, 20%, right? Because there's certain companies like a moving company, their margin is like 5% or 10%. So it's not as big. But people like stagers or contractors, their margin is much bigger. So what I do is I ask them, what is the average size deal that you charge on? And I work backwards from that number to figure out a monthly fee that makes sense for them and makes sense for us. Now, I always do 6-month contracts, and I do the 6-month contracts by design because I want to make sure that they like us and we like them. And I'm very honest with them. I say, listen, we're going to start at $250 a month or $500 a month. But my goal is to give you so much business that after 6 months, I'm going to come back, renegotiate with you, and you're going to pay me more money. Does that sound fair? And they always laugh and say yes. So the conversation is very organic. It's very straightforward. We look at all of our vendor relationships in the sense that it's a partnership, right? It's got to be a benefit for them, and it has to be a benefit for us. So I'm not a money grab guy. I think for me, it has to make sense from an ROI perspective for them and an ROI perspective for us. Also, the thing that I will mention is that it's not a faucet, right? It's not a faucet. Like, we're going to support you. We will help you, post within the group, but we're big on events. We do an event every month, and we tell them, hey, you have to come to events. We're a culture brokerage. You have to interact with our agents. You have to stay, consistent on social media. And don't just post like, oh, it's a 2-1 buy down. Post a funny story about you, because people really want to get to know you, the vendor. So that's how we set it up, and we set the expectations from the beginning. Again, we have like closed offices where only they can enter into. We don't let any other outside vendors into, as well as any of their different collateral that we put out and stuff like that is only theirs. Is that helpful? Is that going to answer your question, Isaac?
Freaking love it.
Thank you.
I feel like you need to put that on a script, man. ChatGPT it, put it out there. Because
I've done it once or twice. So.
Brokers, we overcomplicate shit. Like we got to think like, oh, well, this is my style. And then we got to remember, oh, but Kevin does it this way. Sally does it this way. Right. And then we try to overcompensate the simplicity of just asking for the business that is setting the stage. Right. Like at the end of the day, agents join brokerages because number one, they like their environment. Number two, they think they're going to be able to get ahead. And this is if they do it for the right reasons. And three, they love the community. Right. And if you're not explaining the community from up front, then there's going to be that huge gap of like what happens typically when you don't set that stage, right? You're going to have resentment, regret, and then what's going to happen is you're going to have the reckoning, right? Which is basically a culture clash. So like you just like hit me in the mouth right now. I'm like, shit, I need to add that to my interview process. Like that is part of my recruiting now. It's like setting the stage of how we do things here and how we tap into meetings, how we tap into vendors, and how we tap into this community to keep this ball rolling. Because it's not all about dollars and cents per se. It's sometimes about senses and common sense, right? And
150%.
I like how you put that, brother. So I'm gonna start adding that to my matter of fact, I'm gonna schedule one-on-ones with everybody and reintroduce them back into a community. I would say we have a great community, by the way. Like if you look at our social media, like our team is legit. I really am proud of it. I like going to work every day, right? Even when problems arise, I love opportunities, but we have to be conscious about our community, what keeps it going, ignited, right? So I'm going to reintroduce that conversation, how you presented that about the community and the vendors and those things, and then ask them about who their preferred vendors are and ask them, do you think they could benefit? Like, hey, do you think John the Painter would benefit if we were able to get him 15 more referrals?
150%.
How much more a year? What would that look like financially to him? And then have that conversation about how we made it possible. So the way it went in my head is, hey, Mr. John the Painter, if we were able to add 15 more deals to your pipeline, what would that do for your family? Okay, now here's how we're able to do that. We send out gift cards, Christmas cards. There's a cost to that. Would you like to contribute towards re-engaging those clients to help in turn re-engage you? So I think it's a win-win for all of us.
Absolutely. Yeah. And look, I mean, anytime that you can engage the agents and make it, and I say this all the time, like a we, not a me, it will feel like a family. They will feel like they are part of the ultimately you guys get to make the ultimate decision, and the culture of your brokerage. And I always talk about culture is a reflection of what you want it to be. And there is absolutely no wrong answer on how you build your culture. Doesn't mean if it's cloud, doesn't matter if it's cloud, doesn't matter if it's flat fee. Like you want to attract agents, however many or as however few that you want, that are literally going to be a reflection of you, not only internally but externally to those agents. And if you can bring that to the deal, and once you start to get these vendors going, we even would do things like vendor lunches. So here's what's also kind of cool, and this is kind of the next level after you build out those ancillaries and those vendors. We started doing vendor lunches, and they were exclusive just for vendors. We would come in, we would have a speaker speak for about 20 minutes, and then all of the vendors would interact with each other and start giving referrals to one another, because a lot of their businesses are complementary to one another. And so even like if you have two lenders, let's say, for example, it doesn't mean that they both do the same thing or they're both good at the same thing. Even these guys or these gals are referring each other. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. It really can build your community, and you make the vendors a part of that community and part of the agents. So now, again, they're not going to feel required to use the agents. And again, we can't require them to use the vendors, right? But essentially, if you do build that community the right way, and you do make them feel that they are a part of the decision, with even it ultimately being yours, it will definitely benefit that.
Nice. I love that. I love that.
All right. What other questions, comments, topics would you guys like to touch on? Or is there any more questions on the ancillary services?
Corey, I'd mention one thing that I'll just, this is Mike. I do a lot of the videos for Big Block sort of behind the scenes, and each one of these events that Corey is talking about also is a good marketing and branding opportunity. So what you'll see is that these events are always caught on camera. There's pictures, there's images, there's smiling faces. People look like they're having fun. And we use that, we multi-purpose it on our social channels and whatnot. So there's a culture component that you build for these events. Plus there's a lot of touches to outside agents, inside agents, etc., just because you're having that event, if that helps.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. Mike, can you turn my video back on and make me the host? I clicked the wrong button there. So
Yep.
sorry about that. Thank you. Yeah, and that touches on the next thing that I think is really important, guys, and that is events. We do all sorts of different events, and these can be like, originally we really focused on the socials, right? Which is essentially, you're going to a bar and you give a couple drinks for free and people interact, and those are great. But we do all sorts of different events. Like we have on Saturday, we're doing a family barbecue, and we want everybody to bring their families, bring their kids. We do pictures with Santa. We do, what are the other ones? We did a beach cleanup. We've done hikes. We've done, going around the San Diego Bay. We do a lot of different events, not necessarily just surrounding like, socials and stuff like that. But like that's also like really good interactions for you guys. Pickleball. Yep, we did a pickleball one. That was a lot of fun. So we do a lot of different events because we have, obviously like 800 agents. So it's a really wide demographic of the different personalities that we have. And the events are great. You get all those, so that no, they're actually external, Jason. So outside of the preferred vendors that we only allow in, those events are actually external. All of the events are open to any kind of agents because it's a really, really good recruiting tool. We have our vendors in there, but we actually don't even do it from Big Block. We actually have like a dummy account. A lot of times they know that it's us. But essentially the way that it works is that we actually send it out. I can't remember, Mike, I don't know if you remember the name, but I believe it was called, I can't remember the name of the company, but we basically set up a dummy company just for those socials. And then we put it out to all of the social media. We encourage our agents to share. At our peak, we were getting like 65 to 70% of our recruits were all referrals from other agents because they truly enjoyed the culture. Right. And so events, I really believe are huge. I think that even though agents don't come to the office like they used to, they still tend to come to events because they enjoy it and want to get out and they want to schmooze and they want to get belly to belly and all that good stuff. So we do all sorts of different events. We do one a month. The NAR one was one of those, right, where that was more educational. So like, again, That's just a different type of event. But I think that if the more events that you guys can do is also a huge recruiting tool. And like to Isaac's point, right? You could meet an agent if you do an event that all these different people are invited to. Maybe you do find some people that fit your culture that you would like to bring on. So you're not outwardly going for those recruits, but you feel kind of who fits your culture. So events are absolutely huge. That's something that we've done that we've definitely won in pretty much all markets except for COVID when we weren't allowed to have events. But past that, I do believe that events are huge. Any questions on that? Comments on that? Right. All right. Is there any other things that you guys would like to, what email text communication tools are using to get out to agents? Mike, you want to answer that one? What do we use for the text communication? Is that,
Tax is inside of our Keep account, which is an integration. I forget what they have offhand for that, but for the email, we use video email for the inner office and communication with agents. You guys probably got a video email from Corey for this webinar. That's the same thing, but he just has a different version of it branded for Big Block that we use for the agents.
yeah, text is huge. I mean, text is, I was talking to someone, I think it was Mac actually one day when we were having the conversation. It says 97% of people open their text. And he's like, well, where are the other 3%? It's like 100% of people actually open their text, right? So texts are huge. We also do like slide dials, where essentially, the slide dial is just you send out a message and it goes directly to their voicemail. So we kind of hit them some different ways in terms of the events. We do Facebook, we do Instagram, we do, we do the text messages, we do the slide dials, as well as we do videos like Mike's talking about. Right. Any other questions on that? Cool. All right. Was there anything else that you guys want to discuss today? Kind of before we wrap, again, this is an open forum and I'm going to put, my email in here so that if you guys don't have it, I'd really love for you guys to send me topics that you guys want to discuss. I don't want to just be sitting up here talking the whole time. Again, this is supposed to be interactive. So yeah, I'd love for you guys to say, hey, I'm having this challenge or I'm having this different thing or this topic I'd love to discuss and tackle. Isaac, go ahead, brother.
Okay, so back to the recruiting thing. Has anybody, because I see Big Block, right? They're not in my market, not yet in the Central Valley, but I do know they're like north and south of us, right? Do you guys I would say as far as recruiting goes, do you recommend like is anybody doing social media ads like, hey, or YouTube ads like for potentially growing their brokerage? Just out of curiosity, if that's like a method that's worked.
Yeah, we are. Absolutely. Yeah, we do. We do pay-per-click. We do Facebook. We do, yeah. And our stuff is really around the brand and the culture of Big Block. So kind of, again, I know I've touched on that a lot, but we actually brought in a gentleman that used to be the brand ambassador for Kelly Slater. And his whole thing is just about building your brand and making, just making it about what you want your culture to be so that you attract agents that way. So it's really important in my opinion. But yeah, we do all sorts of videos. We do paid ads as well, but paid ads are only so good. And to be honest with you,
like, what's working better for you guys? Is it like the Instagram, the Facebook, or the pay-per-click? Is it like get your real estate license ads? I was just curious, like what
great question. Pay-per-click used to be really successful. Pay-per-click, great suggestion, Jason. Yeah, I agree with that. Pay-per-click is actually tripled in cost over the last handful of years. So I would say pay-per-click is not necessarily ideal. I think essentially getting ads out where you're retargeting people. Mike, do you want to kind of touch on this? You could touch on this a little bit more in detail and probably better than I can explain it.
Yeah. I can't get my video on, but you guys can hear my voice. What we're running a lot of PPC. Pay-per-click is going to be 100% intent based. So you have to make sure that your unique selling proposition is very clear. And we are getting a good amount of appointments. And there's high intent there, right? But what I think works hand in hand with it is they work together, is that the people who do click through on those PPC ads, they get picked up on our retargeting. And then
Yes,
we
you
put
pick them
Corey's,
out.
yeah, we
Yeah.
put their face everywhere, right? So now we got the videos following you around on Display Network, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, so that when the agents are going to actually make a move, they typically, you know, you should want to be top of mind, no differently than you want to be top of mind with your database. You want to be top of mind with the agent community, because the second their broker pisses them off in whatever way, or whatever causes them to explore elsewhere, the person who's thought of first is one of the calls they make. So
Yeah.
that it's nothing that we can have a direct measurement on, but I know that's what's happening, if that makes sense, because you can't measure how many videos they've watched up until the point that they actually come in and want to talk, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay. So you're
So
going more geared
focus on
toward,
brand, content, and video. The
yeah.
second thing is run video view campaigns. Everyone runs lead generation campaigns. If you run video view campaigns, you can get views to agents that you upload the CSV database list of right from your broker metrics account, whatever you guys are using to get your MLS data. Just target agents, upload that right into Facebook, and run video view campaigns to them, and you're done.
Say no more. I'm
Video
looking.
views, 1 to 3 cents a view. You
Yeah.
can't beat it for the biggest bang for the buck. So you might only have to spend $150, $300 a month. That's it.
Awesome.
It's like a digital billboard is a way to look at it.
Yes, sir. No, I'm very familiar. That's awesome.
All right, cool. Well, unless there's any other questions, we are going to call it a wrap. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, we're going to constantly do this. Feel free to invite more people. This is all supposed to be beneficial and just to understand some of the different challenges we have. Again, I'd highly encourage you guys, if you're willing, to send over some questions or topics that you guys want to talk about. I really want to make this as interactive as possible. But I hope you guys enjoyed today. So thank you so much. Right. All right, guys. Mike will be sending out that recording here, probably, I think, end of business. But again, thank you guys for coming on. I really appreciate it. Really appreciated the time. And I will see you guys all in a month. And if you have any other questions, concerns, or comments, you guys have my email. Again, it's Corey@sweetassist.com. And yes, I will definitely, we will do a mastermind in San Diego. That's awesome. It's great to hear. So we will work on putting that together. So thanks again, guys. I hope you have a great weekend, and I will talk to you soon. Have a great one.